Hello, everybody, and we're back. Thank you for sticking around. So this is just a little bit of a debrief and a chat about what we thought about the D&D, or AD&D in this case, second edition, the introduction to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, the game, with audio CD included, which is the full title of it, and what we thought about the whole bits and pieces, the audio CD included, the mechanics, rolling manually and calculating, some of the monsters which might have been quite different. Not talking about the betrayal yet. Get to that. So Zaraeea, what did you like? What was your thoughts from what we just did last couple of weeks?
It was a good. I think it was a good game for at least not for a beginner. At least these cards are good for beginners. And the way that it kind of like sets out like this is kind of what D&D is, along with making it very not exactly easy, but pretty like simplified rules of this is how you do this is how you do this, and we don't deviate from this really.
So
on the other hand, it's
these cards
redundant in a lot of its rules. And the fact that it has one rule that says this, and then the next one's like, we're actually going to flip that a bit. But it's only for this one thing, which I found made the game all the more confusing.
Are you referring to Thaco?
Yeah.
Thaco, by doing the flipping, and Say's going the opposite of that. Yeah. And then percentage dice for thieves going the opposite to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to say as the GM with that as well, the redundant, it does like the only locked room apart from, of course, the jail, it says it automatically gets opened. I thought that was a bit weird and redundant, like just like you've got a thief, let's have that. You could have bushed to it as well as an option, by the way, but to have that as like an automatic action was really weird. I thought was in the text. I thought it was a cop out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for those in chat, these are these were actually the character cards. That's what they were working off. That's the full character sheet. So it's very basic of what the characters are. Much more condensed. Draconian, what did you think?
Oh, I now can say I have experienced all editions of Dungeons and Dragons, and that just reiterates my preference for one of them, which is not this one. But it is really fun how these cards, like was mentioned already, but how these cards simplify the jump in and start playing much more than when I hand out pre-made characters for my players. Even when I do things, perfectly laid out in front of them, like, oh, the modifier is here for you. If you go into rage, this is how it looks like. So you just roll these numbers instead. This here, even with Thaco, having to explain Thaco to someone, this is even easier than that. My only little peeve was starting equipment is non-modifiable because it's also in the card. That is slightly annoying. It's like just that tiny bit of annoyance.
Yeah, the whole the starting equipment is pretty minimal, and having all the torches, having all the sacks. I mean, I don't know why the sacks, and it's the equipment there is
to loot the dungeon. It's only to loot the dungeon. That's the whole purpose.
Well, there's 4 of us, 4 sacks per person, That means one person could carry the other bodies out.
They're body bags, aren't they?
Yeah, they're body bags.
I can possibly see that, yeah. Okay, yep.
Wait, so chainmail tears away the sacks, but not a body.
I totally agree. From all the basics, like I do a lot of basic stuff. Like, and we're going to be doing in Chronicles, we're going to be going through a few of the like beginner boxes and starter sets and stuff like that. This does it really well for getting people in, like those sheets. From my perspective, the rules are, I mean, you got Thaco, you've got, so you got Thaco, you have thievery checks, you got no spell stuff. There's no rolling for spells, essentially. You have one saving throw instead of maybe, I think, 9 or 11. So just put into one single save. And you've got initiative, which even again, they've just got one side versus another side, and there's no modifiers into it any way. From my point of view, they've really condensed the rules well to maybe have like 4 rules, and anything else like strength checks or like that. That's their suggestion of like anything else make up, possibly do it like this against an attribute. Like that's what's actually said in the text.
Yeah.
Shay, what did you think?
I really enjoyed it. I've had a bit of experience with 5e and some of the other versions, mostly being as well with 4e, and that being what I started with. I really enjoyed the actual consequences of the say what you're going to do beforehand. So it removed some of the metagame of like, oh, I saw this person do this, or I'm going to wait, or I'm going to, if the other person casts a spell, I'm going to respond with. So it was kind of like I lost my turn. That's good. At least I tried something. And it's kind of like, I like the consequence of that. And it kind of gave a little bit more realistic impression to it.
It can really suck for spellcasters, though. I will say that, because realistically, you can lose spells, which are not easy to have. It is very different, though. It's when 3rd edition came out with like the cyclic turn orders, it did change a lot. Like you roll once and then it just keeps on going around and around and around. I will say for those that are not familiar with it, I know Dr. Oblong does know this one, that generally speaking for initiative in the full game set, you're rolling individually, again, d10s, but your actions determine the modifiers for that. So if you're attacking with a spell, say a fireball, you're adding 3 to that initiative. If you're attacking with a dagger, you're adding 1. Longsword, maybe 4. So 4 or 5. I think it's 5 for longsword. Cleric spells, though, they suck. They're generally, you're adding 10.
Yeah.
Sometimes
you're just going last.
Yeah. So the bigger the thing you're doing, the bigger the spell or the bigger the weapon that you're using, it changes that modifier that you're doing. So thieves say, I'm attacking with my dagger. And they've also got dex. Dex can also drop the initiative for the full rules. So these are generally going to start like doing things faster, doing things first. A fighter with a big weapon, like a club, like a 2-handed weapon, is going to be like much later in the initiative. And that can kind of start playing into things, as well as playing into what spells you're using, like Magic Missile, to try to get something in quick. Because Magic Missile is like speed 1 in the full rule set. So that's why they declare first. Because in the full rules, it changes your initiative modifier individually.
Yeah, that seems cool. I like that almost a little bit better than, say, what the current rules in the 5th edition are, where it was like you could have a dex-based fighter with like a finesse weapon go in before the rest of the party because the wizard will never have an actual dex score of anything to use magic missile first.
Or you just in 3rd edition onwards was like get the feat improved initiative. Yeah. Dr. Oblong, you haven't played this for a while. What do you think of coming back to it in a very condensed version of the full rules?
Yeah, those sheets were really good. If I had had them as a 7-year-old or something like that when I first tried to play, when my brothers tried to teach me, would have helped a hell of a lot more than just my brothers sort of going, yeah, roll the dice, and then they'll look at it and go, figure it out. And
Been there too.
Yeah, so that would have been actually really good. So the starter box actually, has some benefits to it. But yeah, the clunkiness of the rules is something I definitely
But you don't miss.
yeah, don't miss that at all. As Draconian says, like, he's a big 3.5 fan. I'm a 3.5 fan and Pathfinder first edition fan. Like I've played all the D&D editions. I've played second edition Pathfinder and stuff, and all their tweaks to the rules. Yeah, I think they sort of nailed it for my tastes anyway. Third, 3.5 Pathfinder first edition, sort of
That genre, yeah, which is also 3.5
which a lot of people say it's very clunky and heavy, but once you actually figure it out, it allows so much customization, and you to really sort of, the rules allow for more role play because there's more rules there. It actually helps, like when people want to do things, you can go, yeah, there's a rule for this, and then it gives them more ideas because they know what they have possible to them, what is possible to them. So
Yeah, or if there isn't a rule, at least you can reference against similar things and
similar
kind
thing,
of
exactly.
improvise. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you know, +2 and -2 modifiers to everything is the DM's best friend.
In this, it's just like in this, because it's like a condensed version. They're just saying for the GM, like just do like a strength check or like a dexterity check, or just like they've really tried to keep it to the most minimum. But that's also in the full rules, they have that type of thing anyway. But it is very, very much more GMs like just making up on the spot and just running with it, and keeping it as simplistic as possible.
Also, the adventure path I think was pretty well made, just by what you were saying of how much detail there was. If the party did this and this, then this, and stuff like that. Like it's not just saying here's a dungeon with monsters expecting the party to go and kill them. It's giving the party, like it's saying that, yeah, the party might not always just be this, murder hobo party and want to do other things. That's what role playing is. But it actually had it in this beginner box. It gave you guidelines of what to do, and that's not normally in any beginner box I've seen, where it tells you what happens if the players aren't doing the expected course.
Yeah,
Well-
beginner boxes are usually beginner for the players, not really for the DMs, the way I see it, because it won't give you the DM this kind of tool that you just mentioned.
Yeah, but that's the thing. A starter box is normally a DM will buy it and then get his friends around to play it, and they'll all be the first time, and the DM's expected to be really, knowledgeable about all this stuff, but they aren't. And this box seemed to actually give that DM a bit of extra material to really help them. So that's a good box. That's a good starter kit.
I've been posting a few things on Twitter, on social media about this, and I've got other things which I highlighted which I didn't end up posting. But there's stuff on if someone's sick or if someone's away, someone can't make a game, what to do with that, or what if you have extra players, and you have more people. What if you have less players? What do you do with the dungeon? Like, there's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of guidance, as you might have noticed, of like the. Do you want to, like, I don't know, Gabe through, do you want to try to sneak around, but you might be caught? Or do you want to, like, put on disguises? Like, they're actual structured things there to offer those ideas for the players. There's even if you surrender in the very, very first room, what happens? And an audio track for that. I'm not kidding.
I'm assuming it's not pleasant.
I'm going to play it now because I did some extra work on this. I'm probably going to have to try to rework the thing so you can hear it. But when I press play, I'll see if we can get a hearing. If not, because there was options there for a lot of different things. A lot of the times, like the last rooms, like not the last room, but like the jail didn't really give that. Like, this is the thing I'm supposed to say, but this is not fitting with exactly the role-playing scenario of what just happened.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. that was the most one it was broken. Also, that did say like stuff like for the gelatinous cube, close the door, run away. Otherwise, it's going to be really dangerous, and that happened a lot of the times, where like this is really dangerous. Probably best for the players just to walk away, and you did that. There's parts in there which absolutely will kick your butts. Absolutely. The gelatinous cube was way more hit points than anything, way more experience than anything in that dungeon. But anyway, let's see if I can play this, if I get this working. I've listed it here on my stream deck as Back to Town, and I hope the audio works from this. Can you hear it?
Yes.
Okay, good. You can't see it, but it's also video.
Does this mean that we're...
No, warrior. It is somebody else's funeral. This time.
And lucky you are. Found you in the garbage mound outside Demara's castle. Somebody dumped you there. Left you for dead.
Aye, you were lucky. This time. It'll be Bone Gnasher who'll need the luck next time.
And I'll just let the video play out. But yes.
So you surrender and they just throw you out like rubbish.
Pretty much. So if there was a TPK, that's what you do. Also, you could have ran away from the wolves. But they were pretty much the only thing that would have kept on chasing. And everything else won't, like, is set up for, like, they're not going to chase. That type of thing. And for those watching, our players aren't watching, but for those watching the videos from Skyrim, the wagon journey into town from Skyrim, I installed it just for
You're finally awake.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice.
I installed it just for that. But no, there's always options, which I thought was really good.
So does that mean our cart back into town's going to glitch out and like spin around and then land?
I want to get a horse now.
I do want to ask, Zaraeea, what do you think about the audio? Because this is not a thing that people generally will play with, like the box text audios and how they were dramatically done, over dramatically. Zaraeea?
And it was like meh. It's like, yeah, they were trying. You could obviously they were also going for that over dramatic, like Dungeons and Dragons type thing in the freaking however long ago this was. But
6 years.
Yeah. It's like takes out of the experience of the whole Dungeons and Dragons. It's like, it seems like weirdly stabbed into the game.
Yeah, like those characters didn't match the characters we had in our heads, and then for that to be then stuck in sort of was just this. It's like there was two different parties in two different dimensions going through this dungeon, and one was this experience of the classic, oh, I'm the wizard, oh, stand out of the way, you should. Like it was all very much just trope, like hard trope of each character.
I mean,
and
we did
it was
very
like
much-
it was alternate like alternate dimensions of the dungeons that happened. Of what ours was a completely chaotic mess compared to these.
I think
noble party going through doing their deed.
I think Drakonyan is trying to point out that you did have your own tropes.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Except me. I mean, whenever I heard Baldur speaking in the audios, I thought, yeah, that sounds about right.
I mean, I played like an immoral
True.
but like Slinker wasn't like that immoral.
No, Slinker seemed like a good person, wanted the slaves free and stuff like that.
Yeah, we
Like,
just cared more
Slinker
about
wanted
mummies than
money.
living beings for some reason,
Yeah,
I
Slinker
don't
wanted
think Lord
money,
and the
but not
Bureau
like-
was in the
not with like
audios.
blood money, which is different from how other Slinker was.
But Zaraeea, you're also a voice actor, or you've done voice acting as well. That's so
Yeah.
too over the top, or do you think that for new players that have never played role playing before ever, that it could guide that type of thing?
It's when you're doing unless it's very specifically said by the director, hey, we want this character to sound silly and over the top and like they're trying too hard, you might want to be like
Subtle?
natural in the way that the thing flows. So maybe like the person who was the voice acting director for that was like, hey, be as cartoony as possible, make it stick that these characters are these tropes. Which in like that case, it is very obvious, hey, these are like the heroes of the story, and this is how heroes in D&D play, but it does kind of limit new characters into those boxes, which isn't, in my case, I'm like, it's hard to like get rid of those stereotypes once it's like if it's what you're presented with at the very beginning.
Yeah. Trying to think. Yep.
Now with like podcasts and things like that and Critical Role and stuff like that, it's you're able to see what a natural game, a tabletop game looks like, because you can just watch it on YouTube. And if someone was to make a box today, instead of putting in that overly acted thing, if they just took clips of a well-played game of D&D from a podcast and put that of those people playing this exact same adventure into it, I think that would be a much better way to, if you were trying to do this style now, to get players to understand the feeling of being at a table.
I will say I was tempted to, and I think I mentioned it as well in the preliminaries to this, is that we play out each room and then replay it as voice acting it. And I'm like, that would slow everything down, and there'd be no real context to it except for maybe podcasting it. But like, I mean, because there does have that the voice acting thing, and then you play your version of it. So I mean, that was my thinking with that, because I mean, I'm also production. I'm also trying to think of something creative to get the views and all the bits and pieces. But yeah, I like the voice acting. I really like how cheesy it is.
I enjoyed it.
Sorry.
I mean, it's enjoyable, but it's like for people who are brand new.
Yeah.
If I was brand new and I did not know D&D and I did not have any experience in this, and someone showed me like, say, a random clip, maybe not as like entertaining as something like Critical Role, and you're just like, hey man, we're doing this, and they like started the audio tape and it's just like 4 people sitting at a table and they're trying to argue about Thaco. Yeah, I'm done. All right, we're done.
I'm sure there's
you.
arguments of Thaco in the last. Yeah.
It's like I absolutely love these audio tracks. Not in the game. In the game, I think they're intrusive, but I absolutely love this kind of acting, because growing up as a nerd, being bullied in school for playing D&D, and now working with this crap, like back then, it's all we had. Like now, people share me like trailers for the upcoming 5e movie, and I'm like, yeah, I know you're excited about this like theater big blockbuster thing. Know that in my time, I watched the other 3 movies that you probably never heard about that were meant for TV. And back then, I really enjoyed them because I liked D&D. So the whole thing was I can ignore how bad this is, because I know that nerd stuff, like stuff for nerds specifically, is not going to sell well. So what we are happy about the old Dragonlance animations. We're happy about D&D, the greater power, and all that old stuff, you know.
Wait, there's Dragonlance animation?
Oh, there are Dragonlance animation movies. They're awesome.
Yeah. I've got to go track those down. I also watched the 3 D&D movies, and they weren't just made for TV. One was at least at the cinemas, the first one.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah.
It shouldn't have been, but it at least somehow got to the cinemas. I watched it with my D&D group. Never again. It took like many years before we went to another movie together, and that was me dragging them to Deadpool. On
I mean, back then,
Valentine's
not
Day,
even superhero movies would sell well
No.
because they were, you know, nerdy.
and Marvel was bankrupt back then.
Yep.
So yeah, it's like yeah. Things have changed, and I do agree.
Turntables change.
Like things have absolutely changed in the market these days, and like so much prevalence. I mean, as a professional GM, Draconian, would you offer this to your players?
No, no, seriously, but mostly because I hate running modules for some reason that we found out here. Like, you end up having to railroad a little, or you just have to change things so much that it doesn't matter that you're running a module. Not to mention, you kind of have to study the whole thing in advance, only to not get to point B the way the module expected you to do. However, I must mention that I'm currently jamming only for 2 campaigns. One of them is the first ever adventure path, the Shackled City. And it's a lot of trouble adapting the module, but it is still a very decent one. So I have a lot of fun with it. You know, the players are enjoying it. But my Friday game, which is set in the Forgotten Realms, it is very more freeform, more open world kind of thing, is more dear to my heart because then I can really give the players their own experience for the game, and I can do my own tweaks and whatever. And with the Shackled City, I just have to sometimes figure out what the fuck the developers had in their minds when they designed some of the dungeons or when they designed some of the encounters. And I'm like, dude, this description simply doesn't match what's on the map.
Yeah.
Which do I go for? You know? And
the snakes.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
I
the
have
snakes.
vented
You
about
were
this
so scared of the
much.
snakes on the map. There's
But
other
yeah,
stuff
I
on the
do
map
my own
too.
maps though. I do my own maps, but they do in the modules, they do give you reference maps, right? So sometimes when I'm making my own version of the map to throw on Roll20, because I, you know, do the whole thing by hand myself, it doesn't, like, I still have to figure out when I'm doing my own dungeon, whatever, it's my own way, it's from my own imagination. It's easier to even then just have a map and I can improvise descriptions because, well, I had the idea anyway. So it's, you know, I prefer to do things myself. But yeah, that's why I wouldn't offer this to my players. However, not because I think it's bad or anything. I just wouldn't play the audios because they kind of force situations a little more than usual.
They do seem to, yeah. I mean, like I'm going to show you the full map as well. I did have another one. Like there was like the map looking like there's lots of things on the map. I just put it to like a different version of the map on Roll20, which I was trying to do to try to see if we can do rotated. And it shouldn't have. I might still have the dynamic lighting. I'll just take that off.
I would say that back in the day, I would have recommended this to a group that wanted to start their own game. Like, I've had friends that have played at my table and then gone on to make their own tables, and I've recommended starter kits when they start tables and stuff like that. Back in the day, I would have recommended this. I would have told them to throw the CD out. But it's a good starter set. It's a really good starter set in its paper products. And what it gives you is actually really good. It's like the layout of the character sheets, what it gives the GM and stuff, really well written and really helpful. But yeah, like, and it's an adventure path. For a starter group, I always recommend to play a short adventure path for any starter group, then go into homebrew, because homebrew is true D&D, like you've said. It's what I, as a DM as well, do as well, is homebrew. But for a starting group, it's a good product. I'm not going to deny that. Like, it's a really useful product that got across how to play this game, even in all its stupid complexity.
And
like,
now
you've got to
you
give it
mentioned
that.
That reminds me, I actually had, like, when I got my first book ever was the Monster Manual. When I got it for 3.5 specifically, when I got it, I asked my cousin to play some with me because they told me it was a thing for a game and all of that. And my cousin happened to have at his house, which was right in front of mine, a starter, this same starter kit, but we didn't actually get to play it through. But I insisted. We had that box there, and it was not his, it was his friend's, but it was there. And I was like, do this for me so I know what I'm getting into with this book. And, you know, I'm in Brazil. There was no CD. The editors, of course, didn't bother recording the whole same thing in Portuguese for us. So, you know, it was the same thing since that whole shenanigan.
There was a yellow box, which predates this, which I don't think came with a CD. I'm not quite sure. There was a few different products with the same thing.
It could have been that then, but yeah, in any case, we wouldn't have gotten the CD.
But I understand that too. Is there anything else anyone wants to say about maybe characters, like character classes?
I think the character classes were really good for like, we can say that the rules in this one were complex, but if what they were trying to do was engage players and get people that hadn't done this before to have an introduction to an already super complex second edition system, this did a really good job of simplifying the characters, simplifying the system, and like the character sheets seem like with the front and the back attached as like one card seems like something that you would actually find in like a higher level board game development. Like after multiple series, they're like, oh, if we just throw all the instructions of like what this character could do on their turn on the back of the card, they never have to flip through 8 pages in the player's handbook.
This is actually this is back in the time when Dungeons and Dragons, like this is still listed as Introduction to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons game, not role-playing game, but games. This is still board game era of role-playing. So
as a DM, when I make new character sheets for new people at the table, I used to write notes on the back of the sheets, basically just like these cards of when it's in combat, these are, you know, the old barbarian, you know, going to rage, do this, and like tell them their moves that they could do as a new player, just to when they sit at my table, just so that they understand what they've got in front of them. And it's basically the same as this. It's very
another thing about I was going to mostly say another thing about the way that this version at least puts the classes is it makes it so every single member has a very specific like specialty, where in most modern TTRPGs people like mix and match, and like people can basically do most of the other things that other people in their party can do. But in this one, it's very specified, which means that everyone gets like a turn in doing things, which is pretty cool. Yes.
Yeah, except for the fighter. Except for the fighter, everybody can do what the fighter does because everybody's bringing weapons to the game. So,
yeah.
I mean, you're supposed to be the better
armor class.
Yeah, 2 armor class. You got more hit points,
and you got a Thaco,
which keeps on going down, and bigger weapons.
Yeah.
That does all add up, especially as you start going up levels. Everyone else's Thacos aren't going up for a long time.
Oh yeah, but it's not like a set of skills. It's like I do the same as everybody, but better. Meanwhile, nobody else can do what the priest does. Nobody else can do what the wizard does. Nobody else can do what the thief does.
The thief
hitting for a lot more.
The thief broke D&D.
Yeah,
with those skills, no one gets that. No one gets climb walls. No one gets any of those skills.
So everybody wanted to be the thief.
Yeah,
but
broke the game.
Like one thing that I do want to say is that the introduction of cantrips in 3rd edition does make that sort of idea of that the wizards only got this one spell, that once I'm done, all I'm doing is throwing my dagger and then throwing my torch or hitting with my quarterstaff, basically doing what the fighter does. With cantrips, and at least it kept him in his specialization. No, I'll keep casting spells while the fighter is fighting. And the cleric could then also keep, you know, casting spells, but also do a bit of fighting because that's what a cleric is about. Like,
Yes.
I
To an
see.
extent, you're probably thinking of Pathfinder because then cantrips are unlimited. In 3.5, cantrips are still limited, but not as much as
They're
other levels.
rules like-
Until you're
Yeah.
higher level.
okay.
Well,
Rules layering. Ah! But yes, they also have the automatic like level ups too, which is one thing I want to point out.
Yes.
For we were able to level up and just roll the hit dice and just move straight through. Where a lot of systems that can take a while. Pathfinder 2, that's a whole thing of leveling up. Like that's a whole week of figuring out what you want to choose. But they kept it as simple as possible. As for the last thing on the character sheets, I've done a recent series on unboxings of a lot of beginner boxes and starter sets, and like character folios have become a thing instead of just a single character sheet. It'll be, this is your character, this is a small background, or maybe how to play or why you would want to play this character because this is their style, and it's got their stats, sure, but it's also got what each of that stuff do, like what they do, like each round or each turn, and that's becoming more and more prevalent these days. This is a simplistic version of that, but again, this is 26 years ago. So yeah, has anyone any other thoughts or notes or comments to make?
Yeah. What are we playing next week?
Well, next week I have prepped the second adventure in this, which, I mean, the priest didn't really do much in this one, but in the next adventure,
The priest did.
like, but as in didn't really have a special role. But in the next adventure is the ghost.
I was the fighter.
We can just pretend the wizard didn't betray us.
The ghost of Harrow Hill is the next adventure.
So you get to try and turn undead and fail at that.
Yes. Now
So
I get to fail at all the checks.
we go all spooky, and for that one there is a time limit. I'm gonna see if we can do it time limited in game. It just puts a little bit of pressure on. I won't do like the timer for the lights and the lamps, just assuming you've got torches ready. But have it just like as a timer for the global thing. You have a certain time limit before the clock strikes, and then doom.
Dun, dun, dun.
We can say that the wizard did betray, but then the party was finally released by the elf, and I can just play the elf character.
We can just play on and swap characters around and just do whatever you want. So I don't want to make up characters though. That takes effort.
No. But do we just play a level 2 characters?
I will have a look. It might be level 2 characters. Like it might be an experience level.
Yeah, a set experience level.
Yeah.
So the thief will be like 6 levels higher than everyone else.
For sure.
yeah, but the opposite of what you just said.
Yeah. So that's it for us. Thank you for coming in. Let's wrap up and just talk about it. We do have other projects which we're going to get to with Chronicles, and this is just the first. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for support. And sorry, I'm just pausing because I've just recently started with Google Assistant, and I'm just going to make sure that's like turned off because Google Assistant started turning on for some reason. Yeah, so will we outros and wrap up. So outros. Zaraeea?
I don't even remember what I'm supposed to say. Okay.
You'll get used to it.
Yeah. Thank you all for watching. My name is Zaraeea. You can find me on twitch.tv/Zaraeea. Same spelling as it's on the freaking screen. Sad days. Slinky finally got their crown and now they're dead. So
they kept their crown for the rest of their life.
yeah.
Dr. Oblong? I'm Dr. Oblong. I am an electronic music artist. You can check out my music at soundcloud.com/Dr. Oblong. That's Droblong, not full spelling of Dr. Oblong. I've had to clarify
And
that
it's
because someone
really
asked
good
me.
music. I endorse it. I listened to it last week. It's really
yeah,
good.
I saw all your listens. All ththese Brazilian listens came on my SoundCloud. I'm like, hey, he did actually listen. But I was playing Mongar, the creepy old and quite untrustworthy magician today. It was fun. I always knew that he was going to betray the party when it came to the orb. He wanted the power. And none of you, and I'm so glad that none of you saw it coming. It was great.
It was really good.
You probably could have like done your action declaration at the end of the everybody else.
I was waiting, but then you said me, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Sorry for calling it out. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right. It's all right. Yeah, that was fun. A lot of fun.
Jack?
All right, Drakonyan. I was playing Belder the Brave, the fighter, who was a bit too distracted, a bit too not knowing exactly what was going on, but he was always pushing through and trying to be the best Belder he could, which unfortunately is not good enough. There's the moral of the story for you. And I am a professional dungeon master. I really love this crap. Like, this is my livelihood. I'm here with Goblin Cave TV team for fun whenever I can. I really love the sort of engagement that Karsh puts out here. And you can find me on Discord at Drakonyan number 2883, or you can just Google Drakonyan Asker, that's with a Z and a K, anywhere, and you will find me on games, on Steam, whatever. I don't know why you would want to stalk me, but feel free to do it. Pretty much a public contact, I guess.
Stalk within reason. OblivionShay?
Yes, I am OblivionShay, playing Lordan the Pure, your cleric, your paladin, your what have you, your holy man. Had a really fun time doing it, even if some of the party wasn't always on board with our set game plan. You can find me at OblivionShay on Twitch or on Twitter, but I'm happy to be here on Thursday nights for this and for whatever's to come.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We'll be back next week with more shows and more AD&D, but we've got other projects coming too. So thank you, everyone here as well, for learning how to do a THACO and getting through that stupid audio. There is more to come because the second adventure also has audio. So be quiet, Google. Second time Google's right. I've got to turn that thing off. But we're going to raid Gargle Badge Studios. They're playing Cthulhu or Octung Cthulhu right now. Share the love. Let's go over there. Bye, everyone.